It's really an important question coming into 2022 as we get ready for spring ball here is and that can the Georgia 2022 defense keep up at all with the pace that the 21 defense set? When you look around college football, there's not a lot of defenses like Georgia's. I think Clemson has had a really good run of defenses. They don't play the same caliber of teams every single week, but they have done a good job for a long time. Used to be that Alabama could do that. There's not really a lot of folks that have shut folks down the way that Georgia has over time. Can the 2022 defense do that? That's the question we're going to talk about. Now, listen, make sure that you're getting DAWGSTRUCTION. It's right down below, as you can see from flipping through these pages. It's something you're going to want to get. It's a keepsake of the 2021 national championship season. Georgia going all the way in 2021 to beat Alabama the second time they played and win the national championship. We've got a lot of images you're not going to see anywhere else. Stories about some players, what they went through and what they've gone through, how they got to Georgia, why it was so special for them. Make sure that you're getting this. We're not so far from sending this out to everybody. The printing is on its way, or excuse me, is on the way to being done. Make sure you pick up DAWGSTRUCTION down below, and that link is right there. You can pick it up right now, and it will be in your mailbox in early March or late February. One of the two depends on how quick I get the books, and we'll take it from there. But this defense has still got a lot of moving parts that are returning. Nolan Smith, Christopher Smith, not related. Uh, those guys are going to have to play well for sure. You've got Georgia's probably best overall player returning in Jalen Carter. I think you can make the argument that he was the best overall player this past season. I think he definitely will be their best player in 2022. And having your best overall player at the point of attack makes it hard for other teams to score. Now, I don't think everybody has any confusion about how many players Georgia lost. Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith's back, but Trayvon Walker is gone as well. There's a lot of guys, De'Aaron Kendrick, Lewis Seen, a lot of leadership gone. Older guys that were, there weren't a lot of captains or any one captain on this team, but you're returning a pile of that on the offensive side of the ball. You basically lose Justin Schaefer and Jamari Sawyer. That's it. But and Zamir and James. But I was talking about the big guys when I said that's it. There's a lot returning on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, you've got some holes to fill for sure. So can you keep up the pace? I don't think you can the way that they did this past year. I mean, 10 points a game, particularly under 10 points coming into the final 3 games of the season. I mean, that's asking a lot of any defense at all in any combination of games. And that Georgia, the schedule is not that bad. I mean, we didn't know going into 22 that Clemson would struggle the way that they have, the way they did, excuse me, on offense. I mean, that was an offense that, with DJ Uiagalelei as well, they scored a lot of points in 2020. But we didn't know that they would struggle like that. And now you're replacing Clemson with Oregon, which I would say is a more a 2022 game against Oregon in Atlanta, which I would say is a more advantageous game than playing Clemson in a 50-50 game in Charlotte. But we don't know how good Oregon will be. They've got a brand new head coach. There's a lot about the opener that is more in Georgia's favor than a season ago. But we don't know what we don't know. And at the time, our expectation was that Clemson, at least mine, was that Clemson would try to get up and down the field and score. They just couldn't do it. And a lot of that was Georgia, but a lot of that was Clemson too. They just had a hard time. Is that going to be the same thing with Oregon? We've seen with Oregon, with Mario Cristobal, they have really played well at times and they just collapse. So the defense will have its ability to get propped up right away. They'll have to go to Carolina. That'll be tricky. but there's no really any team on the schedule that I see outside of Tennessee and Mississippi State, which are back-to-back games, if I'm not mistaken, that are going to be really tough challenges for the Georgia defense. And they're going to be tough in their own way. The way Tennessee plays with very fast moving, that's not necessarily the way that State plays. I mean, State is more controlled in terms of time, but they do like to get up and down the field throwing it. Tennessee couldn't run against Georgia last season. I think that's the other thing from 21 to 22. If you're Georgia and you can keep just one thing, it would be able to have the ability to control the front seven as much as possible, the line of scrimmage. Now, of course, in any you know football game, you would like to control the line of scrimmage. But what I'm saying is, if there's any one thing that you'd like to, if you could just move that to the next season and say, okay, we're really going to be good on the offensive line or the defensive line, you'd say, I really want to be good at those things. They're not going to be as good as they were. But is anybody that's on Georgia's schedule, on their schedule, going to really dominate this defensive front? I think the answer to that is definitely not. Let's see what happens with Tennessee. But there's just so much transition. I mean, Oregon, brand new coach. I think South Carolina is certainly a game to watch. You know, Carolina coming into that game with Spencer Rattler, there's going to be a lot of hope that South Carolina can get the job done because they've made some impressive pickups in the transfer portal. Their issue is we will know right away with South Carolina if they're any good. They play Georgia State straight up week 1. I mean, they'll beat Georgia State. If they don't, then Carolina's not serious in any way. If they beat Arkansas, that's maybe when you pay attention to South Carolina. Because if they can beat Arkansas on the road, they can hang with Georgia and Columbia. Now after that, it's just too tough for Carolina. I mean, they got Georgia, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and then they close with Tennessee and Florida. They got to go to Kentucky. It will add up to be too much for South Carolina to really make a run. But that one game, there are pitfall games here, and this Georgia defense in the past was the reason why you could depend on Georgia so much to get, to be able to win games. You're sitting there and going, is this Tennessee game going to be tough? As it turned out, it wasn't in 2021. And that was because, as I write in the book, DAWGSTRUCTION, right down below, teams just got shut down. Like, yeah, they'd score on their first drive like Auburn did or Tennessee, but then, they just get slammed in the second quarter. Like nothing happens that's positive. And, in 2 of Georgia's 3 losses, and it may be even more than that. I mean, they've only lost 3 games in the last 2 seasons. And in 2 of those 3 games, they got dominated in the second quarter against the Gators in Jacksonville and against Florida and against Alabama and Atlanta. Those 2 games, that's what happened. That's not what happened in Tuscaloosa in 2020, but that's what happened in 2 of those games. So either adjustments were made or, whatever. The second quarter is really telling. Just ask Tennessee, Auburn, South Carolina, the Gators from the 2021 season. It can be a terminal moment in a football game if you don't watch out. But that was because Georgia's 21 defense was so good. What is a realistic expectation for these guys coming into it? I mean, is it 15 points a game? Is it 17? I mean, if you're only giving up 15 points a game in this league, you're doing, I mean, that's legit. It would it would be 50% more outcome from a season ago. But 15 would be great in the current climate of college football. The other thing that you have to wonder about the 22 defense is if they can make plays that were game changing. And, I could talk about this in another video, but so many times the 21 defense made plays that were catastrophic for the other team. The good news is that guys like Chris Smith, Keely Ringo, and Nolan Smith are all back. Those are the guys that made the catastrophic plays. But was it because N'Kobe Dean was blitzing? Was it because Jordan Davis jammed up the run? That's the question. And there's a lot, really to discuss and talk about. Let's talk about it over on Dog Post after you grab your edition of Dog Instruction down below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you over on the website.